All right, and Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes podcast, joins us. Alex, been a while, man. How you doing? I've enjoyed your podcast, bud.
Joe, I appreciate that. I'm doing great, and I'm doing actually really good now that I can start to feel like week one is almost here, Joe. Miami, Stanford, September 4th, 2.5 weeks away, I think. We're getting really close.
You know, it's funny. Everybody's wondering, and listen, our young guy's going to make some mistakes. The offensive line is going to have some mental mistakes and some breakdowns. Stanford, will go after him. They know there's some guys playing for the first time in there. But I'm not worried overall as we get into this thing, 4 or 5 games. There is just so much young talent, plus a couple of guys coming back. Obviously, Matthew McCoy, I think, is really good. But a guy that I know everybody in Canes world's taking credit for this one, which you know how the podcast world, you don't do it, but there's some other guys that like to chest beat a little bit, that they're the first. And I get a kick out of it. Listen, man, everybody's got to make a living. But when we got out to camp, one of the first guys everybody's telling me, and I'm standing back there with Dennis, head of recruiting, and we're talking, and he goes, watch this Ben Cogden cat. This wasn't something new, like everybody's going, I knew it, and I was the first to report. He's going to be a stud. He's 6'8". He looks, not quite as big as Jackson Cantwell as far as weight-wise, but at some point, I know we're not supposed to do this, but he's going to be a big-time player down the road. You think they got a good idea right now who the starting 5 are? I know they're still switching positions and playing different combinations.
That's actually a really hard thing to speculate on, because what you said at the end of that question, Joe, it seems like Alex Mirabal is still very much in like the experimental phase.
Yes.
Where, if I'd like to try to read Coach Mirabal's mind, that's Miami's offensive line coach, I'd like to think that he's got a pretty good idea that come opening day, player XYZ is going to be at a certain position. But to this point in training camp, they've still been at the phase where, I think it's good to cross-train your offensive line, because God forbid you have injuries and shakeups during the year. You've got a bunch of guys who are capable of playing multiple positions. But you know better than anybody, Joe. You go out to a Miami practice on any given day, you'll see a player that was lined up at guard one day might be lined up at tackle the next day, or center the day after that. So I think they're still in that phase. I'd like to think, and this is my my educated guess, that Mirabal's got a pretty good idea who his best 5 are, but I think they're still experimenting maybe who's best where.
It's weird. It's funny you said that. We were out there. Woody and I were standing out there behind practice, and Jackson Cantwell was at right guard, and I went. So the only thing I would say about cross-training, and again, the head coach and offensive line coach know a lot as a combination, as much as anybody in the country, about offensive linemen. Usually I like tackles to stay at tackles. And honestly, if you're a right tackle, I like you to stay at right tackle and a left tackle, because those guys said, man, everything gets a lot different just to get comfortable, because you are going against the best pass rushers, and they all come in different sizes and bend and moves, and I'm not big. And now, listen, you get injuries. I get it. You get some guys that rotate back and forth to kind of patch job, but that's just me. Hey, so I want to ask you about the wide receiver position, the news, Cam Vaughn, which, by the way, was like, okay, I figure one of those guys is going to leave. To be honest, you probably did. When they all got together, especially this Barcade thing was a little bit of a surprise when they realized, people forget, like, all right, we got a quarterback, but the quarterback says he's bringing his wide receiver and he's really good. And they go, oh, okay, well, that was not in the plans originally. So now you add an extra guy. And I figured somebody was going to go, all right, he's going to play it. Ooh, I don't see numbers for myself. So I'm not surprised. I don't know if it's Mario's decision or Cam Vaughn ended up doing it on his own, but you're not surprised that one of those wide receivers left, are you?
No, not at all, Joe. People need to understand the context of Miami's wide receiver rotation and what it might look like, right? Malachi Toney obviously is a starter in the slot, right? There's no question, undisputed. I believe Cooper Barcade, strongly believe, 99.9% he's a starter as well. So you had guys like Cam Vaughn and Dre Jacobs, and of course these other names are still on the team. Vaughn is
Right.
not. Josh Moore and Dalen Upshaw essentially competing to be the third starter. And Joe, I don't think Vaughn was near the top of that competition, which is important context. I think Moore and Upshaw both ahead of him, and I think Dre Jacobs was also ahead of Cam Vaughn. So it's not to say that he never would have played at Miami, because, I hear Shannon Dawson, the OC, talking about how much he wants to rotate his receivers this year. He's got so much talent. But, I mean, if you're talking about Vaughn potentially having been wide receiver number 6, like, people need to understand that the guy who has been dismissed from the team was possibly wide receiver number 6 on this team, which goes to show you how deep it is.
Agree. That's a great point. So I'm hoping our wide receiver coach is giving a lot of love to Joshua Moore. I think physically he's got stupid talent. I see sometimes I worry about body language when I try to read it watching him, because I'm a big fan and I spend extra time when I'm out there watching him. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. We've seen he's teased us a little bit on how good the talent is, jumping over guys, running by guys. I don't want to lose him, because I think someday if he gets this thing figured out, physically, you can't coach that. He's got a natural gift. And then you got a guy like Upshaw who doesn't have the talent of a Joshua Moore, and I'm not taking away Upshaw's talent, but he plays hard and he's working. I'm going to be a Kane and I'm going to play here and nothing can knock me down. I want to be and he plays that way. He looks great. What do you do? What do you do in that situation, man? Because Josh needs some love right now. He needs a big hug him and tell him you're good and love you. Pat him on the rear end. If he doesn't like that, pat him on the back. But keep him going, help him out.
I mean, I think if anything, the competition for who gets the most reps out of those two, and I think you characterized it correctly, Joe, because I do think that after Tony and Barcade, I think in no particular order, Upshaw and Josh Moore are like right there. I think that those two guys are competing for like one starting spot. And I honestly, I assume that they're going to let that competition continue throughout the season, that it's not over once they decide who starts week 1.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're right. Moore is the guy who has got that sort of God-given talent. Like the way you describe, he mosses people in practice, Joe, with the way he gets some of these contested grabs. I think Upshaw maybe has an edge just in terms of his pure consistency.
Yes.
But I know that that's something that Moore is working on. I mean, Moore, spoke to the media. I was on the Zoom call with him after practice, I think last Thursday. He had a tremendous attitude, and he talked to us about how, like, he's really been working to perfect his craft. Like, he struck me as being really motivated, and I think this competition is bringing out the best of him, and I think he tries to bring it every single day.
The first day of spring football, watching Malachi and Josh Moore, they both had unbelievable practices to the point the coaches are telling us, can you guys slow it down a little bit? We see they're having a good day, and it's not supposed to happen when they first get here, but calm down a little bit, and you're like, damn, it looks pretty damn good. But anyway, hey, so one thing kind of lost on everything. I know everybody's talking about the loss of certain players, and Rueben, Bain, and Akheem Mesidor obviously are two huge losses. But it's not just their pass rushing. They're really good against the run. Yeah. They were really good first, second, and third down players. There was no specialty to them. They were good. They're tough. Do we get that with this batch, this same type? I think pass rushing, I've seen the skill set, and they showed it a little bit, the 3 or 4 guys they're going to have out there. Do you worry at all about their ability on the outside? Because they're going to try to run at them on the outside.
Yeah, I do a little bit. I think someone like Armando Blunt, I think, is really going to impress people at edge and setting the edge when he's on the field. He's 275, so he's got, similar dimensions as what Rueben Bain had when he was here, and Blunt, I believe, is an ascending player. But yeah, I mean, listen, with a guy like Damon Wilson, I know he's working on it, because he said that was like one of his goals when he got here, was to improve his run stopping grades, elite pass rusher. But I know that that's something he's working on. And I think someone, though, Joe, who may surprise some people with how much he's working on that and how much he's built up his body is Marquise Lightfoot. I mean, I can remember when Lightfoot got to Miami, I guess it was 2 years ago. He's heading into his third year. He was like 210 pounds coming out of high school, 205, 210. He's bulked up to 240, and he's been practicing
Wow.
extremely
Yeah.
well. So I know that that's been a point of emphasis, right? I can't sit here and automatically say that you're going to replace Bain and Mesidor, who, as you pointed out, Joe, these guys were elite run-stopping graders. I mean, you look at their Pro Football Focus numbers from last year, it was as good stopping the run as it was rushing the passer for both of them. I don't know if you're going to be directly able to replace that, but I do think that with the defensive ends Miami has in their rotation, I think Armando Blunt may already be equipped for that, and I think the others are working on it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Do you feel good about the 3 tackle or 4 tackles, defensive tackles they have? Obviously, having Moten back and the guy next to him. I just blanked out on his name, but how do you feel about the group coming in?
Justin Scott.
Yeah.
You know, I do, Joe, as of fall camp has been making me feel better about the depth at defensive tackle. You mentioned the top line guys are one of the best duos in the country on paper, but Jarquez Carter, and I heard you talking about him with Coach Cristobal the other day, which was great because Carter, the transfer from Ohio State, has been a standout so far. And Keona Davis, the transfer who came in from Nebraska, I think it was from Nebraska, who gets a lot of time at that spot as well. I think it's going to be the 4th guy there, or 3rd or 4th in no particular order. But I do think Miami's got a rotation, right? You always want to be, for an elite team, you want to be 4 or 5 deep at defensive tackle. And I think Miami feels like they have that may be one of the strongest spots on the team beyond even the 2 starters.
All right, so we talked about depth. At running back, do we still have depth? I don't know what's going to happen. Hey, listen, I'm not making light of it. I believe guys should get a second chance unless it's something real serious.
Right.
But how are you feeling about the running back position?
Well, think about it this way. Miami did what they did last year with Jordan Lyle being a very small part of the team.
Right after starting, he kind of disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, he got injured. He actually started the Notre Dame game, got injured early in that game, missed a handful of games, was never the same physically when he came back. So, like, you barely had Jordan Lyle as a factor last year. You still have Fletcher and Marty Brown. That was your top 1-2 punch. But then Gerard Pringle came on at the end of the year. Pringle's been practicing really well. And then another thing to watch, Joe, and again, like you said, I hope we see Lyle at some point this season. I hope that he can work through everything that's going on right now. But Javion Mallory, the true freshman running back out of West Boca, he's been a really good story, Joe. And Miami the last couple of years have had true freshman running backs step up. Pringle last year, Lyle when he was a freshman the year before, Fletcher as a freshman the year before that. So, I mean, it would not surprise me if Javion Mallory, who seems like he's physically ready to play Power 4 football, if he gets some burn as well. So, I mean, I want the Lyle thing to work out because I really like him, and I want the team chemistry and everything to be on point. But even if it doesn't work out, or at least not right away, I think Miami's okay, more than okay at running back.
You know, it's been amazing over the last couple of years. I'll make to get to the point here. The backup quarterback has not played a lot of football here. As good as games where they've won 20-something games they've won, Cam Ward's every game was down to the wire no matter what. It was like either win or lose on the last drive or last couple drives. So throw that out. And then last year even, Carson Beck played a lot of football. The backup, we got to get to a situation in a game where we've got to get the backup quarterback some experience. I'm all for getting out of this transfer portal and growing our own. And they're at a point now you got a 5-star quarterback coming in. You got some 4-star quarterbacks. You might have a guy right now that might be the guy that's on the team right now. The day I was out there, he was fantastic throwing in the rain. How do you feel about that?
I'd like to see more, Joe. Like you said, I think Miami this year on paper, there's a lot of games that they should win comfortably by double digits. It's an even easier schedule than they've had the last couple of years. I think Luke Nickel seems to be coming along in terms of his development. He's been practicing well. Darion Coleman is a true freshman. I don't count on him much for this year necessarily, but I think he could be an arm for the future. You mentioned having Israel Abrams in the pipeline, who's a 5-star, who's going to be arriving in 2027. But I really, this year, I would love to see, hopefully, because it obviously has to work out this way on the scoreboard, hopefully to get Luke Nickel more opportunities, because he's the guy. He's going to be the backup this year, I expect, and he's the guy who would be, from an experience standpoint, in his second year now, would be third year next year. He'd be the one in the best position to take over the reins from Mensah next year. So it's like, I think the progress has been good from him. And, Mario, I was at the ACC Media Days a month and a half ago, and Mario did say we're not going to go to the portal for quarterbacks after this. So I'd like to believe that means he's pretty happy about what he has in the room for now and the future. So yeah, I want to see Nickel get more opportunities. I mean, he's got more mobility than a lot of people realize. I like he's a little aggressive. You want to rein the gunslinger stuff a little bit. I think he's starting to do that now. But I'd like to see him get on the field in a lot of fourth quarters this year, if you know what I'm saying.
Donno, it's a lot cheaper doing business too, man. I mean, you have a budget. They have a budget. And I tell you what, you hate, I know we talk about in the NFL too, you hate to spend it, a lot of it. And they've been great quarterbacks. I think we have a great one right now too in Mensah. But boy, it'd be nice to get it back at a decent price under. We've been paying top dollar to QBs around here the last few years. And if we could just homegrown one, they're expensive, don't get me wrong, but the whole way of the transfer portal can be very, very expensive way to do it.
And Joe, the quarterbacks get more expensive every year. I mean, what Miami was allegedly paying for Cam Ward 2 years ago would feel like quite the bargain now with the going rate for quarterbacks.
Yeah. Thank you, Cam Ward. You were a bargain. Yeah, I'm with you, man. No question about it. Hey, bud, I really appreciate it. Alex, thank you, man. Everybody getting all jacked up. I love the podcast, and thank you so much. Appreciate it,
Joe, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Hollywood, thank you. We'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right. Alex Donno, host of Locked On Canes podcast, keeping you up on everything with this team and everything Marl's got going on. He's got a loaded team right now, and I think everybody's jacked up to see what it's going to look like. You're not going to sneak up on anybody. I know that.